Sherry, you mentioned a couple of times that the work is not only U.S. based, it's international in Syrian refugee camps, for example. And are some of the truths, the findings you've been talking about this morning, you and Ann, are they universal everywhere in the world? Or do the messages need to be tweaked in some ways? And if so, how?
Well, listen, the fact that a child who's going through a traumatic experience or needs nurturing care as the antidote, that they need engagement with adult, is absolutely universal. I mean, there are people here, Dr. Besser I would turn to. Will you nod if I'm correct? Okay, thank you. Okay. Now, we made, one of the secrets, I think, to Sesame's success internationally is that we are so careful to make it local, to make it reflective of their culture. We're partnering and producing it in that country. And so, yes, there are certain things that we do to make sure we're really reflecting a child's reality, in whether she's in Jordan or Lebanon or in Afghanistan, so that they can relate. But that underlying need of content that will have an engaged adult helping a child by increasing that interaction, that engagement, that is the model of what we're doing in the refugee camps. And I do believe that need is universal, and as the brain science would support that.
And I know this initiative is awfully new, not even a year old. You come from it, and at a very granular level. Sherry, you're at a more 10,000-foot level. So I would ask each of you, how in 2, 3, 5 years will you define success? And maybe even some disappointments. But what are your measurements?
My measurements are simply when I can see a child who arrives at our agency with the deer in the headlights look. That if our work and our ability to talk about this very, very scary thing can change, and that child leaves us giggling and smiling and curious about life again, that is a success. And so how many children we can change over time, that's how we measure success. But one of the things that I think is so powerful about this, and what I have come to appreciate even more, is we have over 600 families that come into our agency, and the common denominator we hear from the grown-ups is, I feel lonely. I feel really isolated. This scary event, parenting a child is hard enough as it is, but when you're parenting a child that's experienced traumatic events, it adds an extra level of confusion. And so for me, when parents can say, you've provided language for me, you've provided some guidance, and now I understand some of the steps I need to take, that's the power of it. And this is what the content at Sesame Street allows us to have, this conversation that's part of our common vernacular. You know, we should all be able to talk about that children need safety, self-regulation, and relationships. And when we can do that, and we can do it in ways that are non-threatening, that's how we will improve outcomes.
Sherry?
Well, I would say that, you know, again, we're very fortunate because it was because of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation that we were able to start this program. We started with 3 pilots going into communities, convening those various organizations working with vulnerable children and families. And it was LA, it was Kansas City, and it was Guilford County, North Carolina. Now we have expanded to 4 more communities, so we have 7. So one of the measures of success would be able to garner the support, the funding, everything we do is you know, thanks to philanthropic support, to reach more and more and more communities. And then, of course, we're data-driven, so we don't want to just be there unless we're making a difference. So to Ann's point, we're constantly getting data and feedback from those partner organizations as to how it is impacting their delivery on their missions and their goals. So knowing that it is effective, knowing that we're increasing engagement between caregiver and children, and ultimately knowing that there are outcomes of those children themselves. And lastly, you touched on this, I would also say, you know, Sesame has a powerful voice, and these Muppets garner attention with adults as well as children. So I think raising awareness and heightening awareness to the importance of helping children overcome traumatic experiences, to the long-term detriment to their health, both their cognitive, their ability to learn, and their long-term health, is really important for people to understand, because if we're not investing in the early years of life and investing in helping children, particularly children in poverty, overcome these traumatic experiences, I think that is a long-term, it's something we will all suffer from, because this is our next generation. And I hope if we can raise awareness, that will also be a real measure of success.